about, you talk about you get excited if you open a box or something and you know about, the gifts and memorabilia that you get. Have you ever had a really odd request from somebody that, a customer or client would say, hey, if you ever come across this, keep your eyes out, like give me a call if...
we've gotten some really strange phone calls that people that don't know what we are.
Yeah.
Or we've had people show up thinking that we're some kind of a pawn shop, and
or a head shop.
Yeah, and they have speakers in the back of their car that they want to sell, and
and I'm like,
I'm not even touching them. I won't even touch them.
I guess the oddest request is, I bought pipes from you before. How come you don't sell it anymore?
Right, and we never.
And I said we've never sold. Even though I'm a glass blower, and so is Seth. we've never really sold pipes. When before there was anything legal going on and people had medical marijuana, we had what was called a compassionate care center, where we had maybe a dozen pipes from artists that we've blown glass with. But once it became kind of opened, we said, no, this is not what we want to do. We don't want to look at people's age or anything like that. If someone was having a true medical problem and this was helping them, then I could, in good conscience, go ahead and make sure, because we cannot support illegal selling of that kind of substance in any shape or form.
The strangest phone call we ever had, probably, because I remember it. Most of them you don't remember.
But
we had a phone call asking if we have Murphy bed supplies. Not Murphy beds or whatever. But I don't know what that would involve with the springs, I'm guessing.
Mattresses.
Yeah.
What about Woodstock Trading Company would make you think?
The chimes, maybe.
And so they figured trading company, they must have all kinds of weird stuff. But yeah, that was probably the oddest phone call. I mean, every now and then we get somebody asking if we have police scanners, or because they think we're like a pawn shop or something.
Yeah. They've asked for some of these things that clear the blood out or something.
Oh yeah, we get all that all the time.
And like the post-smoking too.
Yeah, we get that.
Yeah. We don't.
And that's just not our thing. We're like, I mean, you made a choice, you made a decision, and
what's interesting is that most of our customers, I don't know if it's our reputation or what it is, but they do not bring anything like that up or anything like that. We never became a 12-step program, although we were members of Safe Place and things like that, for the community to have a time out and to be able to just kind of come to the back, play the piano or whatever they want, play with the cats, and just catch a breath. Especially during pandemic, we were able to kind of do that. And they don't come in here drugged up or off the wall or think it's cute, hey man kind of deal. There's been a certain respect for what it is that we do and what we don't do. I guess this is my house, and there are no ashtrays in my house. Actually, we have no ashtrays. People have wanted ashtrays.
Really? Yeah.
I mean, we can't seem to
but
find
we don't have. Well, I have sold ashtrays, but
Nobody
I don't
seems
even
to have
think about them.
What about? I would love your take on. You've obviously been fans of music over the years, all different kinds. Are there, in both directions, things you don't necessarily like seeing in the music industry, and on the flip side, things that also, make you hopeful for the future of, the type of people who come in here and for music?
My God, absolutely. Oh my goodness, all of the people that are writing, studying, looking at, tasting all kinds of music. It's part of making music and art are part of the human experience. The cavemen adorned their caves with drawings and calligraphy and things like that. It's a human need. Early man beat on drums, played flutes, so it is all part of the human experience, and there's no reason why it would ever stop.
I mean, if anything, I think with, there's a lot of things that we don't like about the internet, that it's things are too accessible in some ways, but at the same, on the flip side, you can be in Cherry Hill, New Jersey and be listening to an artist in Australia and get inspired by somebody playing in Kenya and sharing your music somewhere else. That it's
different though. The human experience of being in a facility with a live performer. Harvey and I were just talking about that today. Just being there and being surrounded by the music in a common bond. You don't have to speak the language. You don't have to have anything in common with the guy next to you, but we're hearing the same thing. And there's something about that combined experience that makes live music fantastic. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy our lawn here, is that we have that.
At the same time, the internet has given people the opportunity to sample things they never would have, because before the internet you had to go to record stores and invest $6, $7, $8, $9 or whatever on a record that you weren't sure if you were going to like or not. And you'd get, and as far as radio, getting a chance to hear new things on the radio, it really didn't happen.
Right.
The radio stations had their formats and they played the same 100 songs.
They were told, okay, this is what's popular,
exactly.
This is what people want to hear.
And this is what you're gonna get. And you really never had a chance. The exception, some record stores had listening booths, but not too many, and you only got a chance to hear maybe 5 or 6 things. And again, it's what they were selling. So like Napster, when it started
originally,
that changed things quite a bit for the good and the bad of it. It gave people an opportunity to listen to material that they never would have considered. Then of course YouTube now, you can sample things and say this is something I like or don't like, but are people buying it? That I don't really know. I really don't know. I mean, it's easy enough to download it. Or just, if it's something you like, either download it or bookmark it and go back and listen to it again.
But a lot of people are selling their music through that means too, so they do get a stipend.
Which kind of goes against what I was saying about possession. I still like to possess if it's a track that I really, really like, I download it if I can. I like to possess it in some form because tomorrow it might get taken off.
Yeah.
Either YouTube or Facebook or whatever. So I do, and anything that that I do happen to like, I do at least download it, and I will occasionally buy. So the internet has made certain bands or whatever artists much more accessible to the entire world, as opposed to just simply hoping that you can get a record contract, or that maybe you'll get something played on the radio or whatever. So it's opened up a lot of things. What it's done to sales, I really don't know. I don't know that much about the business.
That side of it.
It's like, is it translating into sales or is it hurting sales? They're probably selling a greater variety of music, I would imagine, than they used to, because now people can put out their own. They can stamp their own vinyl now.
I mean, you have certain artists who were discovered on YouTube.
Yeah.
And became huge.
Yeah, I mean, I just bought.
It's a different opportunity.
I just bought on vinyl. It was a band called Fritz.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
Ah.
And they basically, the only people in Fritz that really became a big deal were Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks.
Oh.
And they were in a band called Fritz.
I had no idea.
Right. It was the Fritz Rebine Memorial Band was the full name of the band. So one of the members of the band had recordings of Fritz. So it was Lindsey and Stevie before they joined Fleetwood Mac.
So all this lost music that's a huge part of the population had no idea
Not a
even
clue.
existed.
So I when Javier Pacheco was in the band, when he released the vinyl, I was like, yes, I must possess this. Yeah, right. It happened. It still does. I probably have all of the tracks already downloaded off of YouTube by now, but just in that remote chance that there's one track that I don't,
isn't there? Yep.
I needed to have this. So I mean,
And it's real.
there's no way that anything like that could have ever been released pre-internet.
Yeah.
I think some of the fun things, we're talking about possession, some of the fun things that give us joy also is for people to actually buy our artwork. Seth is a ceramicist, and when people come in, and number one, he created our whole incense assemblage there. Oh my God, he has worked years on having the best fragrancing, and that's very special, very special thing for people. Fragrancing is very powerful reminiscences of life structure. He used to give some great lectures. We haven't done that in a while, and we had get-togethers, and he makes the most beautiful incense holders that work very well. And anybody that would come in and look at some of the jewelry that I've made and the wire wraps, and then they'll come back and say, you know what, I want to do that. And that gives me the greatest thrill, is that
you
they're
kind of
going to do
inspired
it.
this little.
If they don't buy a piece, we're not really that bummed out. But if they come back and say, I want to learn how to do
And then
this,
It's almost
do that.
even
we feel-
greater.
even though we literally we lost a sale.
Yep.
We lost potential sales.
But you inspired somebody else to kind of.
But I think that's even better. I mean, because I'll retire a little bit later.
I'm never going to retire.
This is life.
No, my
So,
greatest
that's fine.
joy, is to come in here every day. I don't want to be anyplace else. I don't want to be anyplace else.
Well, that was another thing that I wanted to ask you about. What is your vision for Woodstock Training Company kind of in the future? Do you see it evolving in any way in terms of inside the store, outside with the lawn, hopefully with, COVID, maybe starting to wrap up a little bit?
We've been fortunate enough. We're not overwhelmed with people, and we've been able to stay open. And as far as evolving, the only thing we can hope for is the next generation to continue, and then we'll see.
Yeah, this whole thing has been an organic process. We didn't plan this. We had some ideas saying what we will and what we will not do.
It's more what we will not do.
Right. You didn't know what it would turn into, but you knew what you didn't want it to
Have we
become.
tried things that have failed? Of course, we've said, this is something, oh wow, we got to get into this. Every now and then we accidentally stumble upon a fashion and it perplexes us because we don't.
Mucklucks.
The mucklucks became a thing. Like
And we
in
got
the
all
early
these
2000s.
little kids. Wait a minute. Where did they find them?
Yeah, like the popular people, the cheerleaders, and
We're all of a sudden
we're
And
piling into
they're,
the
they're
store.
matching everything. What are you matching?
And the parents who you think would be very comfortable here were mortified by like what kind of and it's like, we're not what you think we are, I promise you.
We had so many parents come to check us out to see what we were about, if we were safe for their kids.
Yep.
And let me tell you, they were so happy to have us.
Yeah.
Very happy.
So, we've tried things, that didn't succeed. We've tried things that did, and, so it's been an organic process. And as far as our future, I just want to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
What it will evolve into, I don't know. We never really thought about it. Like, what kinds of things are we going to add to the store? We try to not be too narrow a focus, but at the same time, you don't want something that's just not going to fit in.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a narrow range of things that we can really focus on. But, we've expanded certain things and contracted other things. I remember, when Fish was on tour, they played chess. So we were like, okay, so we actually ended up getting requests to get in chess sets.
Chess? Huh.
So we started carrying various chess sets for a while.
And Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons.
We would get back to that. That was a COVID.
And we had dice. We were selling Dungeons and Dragons dice.
We still do.
And we still do, even though
we
it's
make
not
it into
like
jewelry.
Yeah, we
Oh,
turn
nice.
it. So it's not a big point. Rarely does anybody come in and asking for the dice.
But maybe they happen to see it, and
they
it's just
see
like, oh,
it.
that
Every
is
so
cool.
often,
And-
somebody would come in here that wouldn't go into like a comic book store or a gaming shop, but they're more comfortable here.
And people like it because they've met other people saying, "Oh, you're a gamer," and they've
Right.
made
Oh,
friends.
have you seen that play? Like,
Sure,
you should
sure.
check out that.
Write this book or that, whatever, stuff like, yeah, exactly. So, we've tried all kinds of things, and some of them are vestigial. We still have a couple of chess sets left. Even though I don't know when or if we're ever going to sell them, but we have them, things of that nature. So it's kind of, we try to stay focused.
The thing that I like very much, and I like doing very much, were our drum circle get-togethers, and I was doing them very successfully for a number of years. And I would do them on the full moon, as according to Mom, because sometimes I didn't make it exactly on the
You
full
had your
moon.
own schedule,
I
so
had my own
okay.
schedule. So we would call it the full moon drum circle, as according to Mom, and that's when we did them. And as the years went by, more and more people filtered over to the Philly drum circles, and over there they were allowed to participate in some recreational stuff that I won't allow here.
Yep.
And they used our place as a meetup place. And I didn't like being used, so I shut it down.
Yeah.
And then I tried it again, and the same thing happened. They wanted to have food and wine and this and that. And I
It's a
said,
drum circle.
it's a drum circle. I used to have, there were people who were Native American that would come over and teach different kinds of drumming and chants. I had over 40 people sitting in the winter's day all over the floors here. In order to get to the bathroom, they had to go outside the door into the back bathroom because you couldn't get through the humanity. People came with kazoos and all kinds of flute. I even had harp players and
You
a
had a harp in
violinist. I had a harp, a small harpist, and everybody had a voice and everybody played. And then it got to be this thing, and I said, no, I don't do a thing. No, we're done with it.
Yep.
It's finished. It's over. And I used to do, one of the funnest things I did was I used to take people, especially young people. We would meet up here, have pizza dinner. I hired a bus. I should show you the bus. We had this hippie driver that would have just couches, and we would do a drum circle on there, and we would take them to local pubs where we would do an early show, and then we would do a sweep.
Okay.
And they would come back here and their parents would pick them up here. And I did it for years. And I said, if anybody bought a drink for someone underage, anybody lit up during our time, if anybody was on timeout and broke curfew and came, I would never do it again. Somebody smoked on the bus. And that was the last.
Ruined it for everybody.
I said, I will never do it, and I never did it. And people remember there were marriages that were made and still going strong from that.
Because they met on
the bus. On the bus.
Oh my God.
And I'm
love
still in
that.
touch with these people.
Oh, I love that.
I'm still in touch with the people. Why do I love Woodstock? Because it is the way it is. This is what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the facility it is. There's some people here.
Yeah, I know.
We hear customers. Hello.
You had another question. You started to ask a question.
You kind of answered it while you were going. I was more curious in terms of, kind of the community things that you did kind of touch base on. Was there anything else that you think that I should know that I didn't think to ask, or?
Oh, goodness.
I know, as you were saying, you could go on for...
We could. It's been a really wonderful experience. I don't know how many people have joy in the work that they do. And I think they don't have joy in the work that they do because they don't necessarily think out of the box, and they think work is work. I had a staff member that I hired, and she enjoyed her work, and her father said, well, you should get another job. You shouldn't, work should not be enjoyable. You should go and work.
What?
You should go, you're not making enough money, and you should
go to work.
The goal is that
you love what you do.
Yeah, she was in high school looking to go to college, and I gave her an opportunity. It was another thing. I liked hiring interns so that they could get something on their resume and have some job experience. So she got a job in a restaurant, and there she was, and like Olga's Diner or something like that. And some nights she made some money, and other nights she didn't. So by the time she was finished,
it was the same.
It was a wash, and she was up all night,
Mm-hmm.
and like.
That's strange that he would have said that, because to me, isn't the phrase that if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life?
That's another thing that I caution people about. If you really love something and you take it as a job, and that's like, I love art and I'm an artist. Now, if I were to exclusively work at my craft, I would probably think of it as work, because I would have to then not be an artist craftsman. I would then become a craftsman and have to reproduce, and I would have to go to shows, and it's an obligation to produce a certain amount of work. Here I produce what I want because I have an outlet to sell it. So we set this stuff up to meet our needs. We have the wonderful ability in a small store. Okay, I've done a lot of management theory and things like that. In fact, I was just talking about that, and entrepreneurial studies. So it isn't like this just kind of happened. I've really given it very large thought, and probably could run a very large corporation because I am a workaholic, certified, absolutely certified workaholic, and had to design something where I'm not going to lose my family, so I drew them into the same facility.
He's not saying anything.
It's manipulative. It's manipulative.
No comment.
But I guess the whole thing to me is family. And looking at women's studies too, because I was like the first member of women's entrepreneur groups here in the state. Uniting, New Jersey Association Women Business Owners is the first state to have a statewide women's entrepreneurial group, and talked about having and working at work and that kind of stuff. So I've really given a lot of that thought. But if I were to work exclusively at my craft, I would have to be able to sell it.
I also think that it just takes all the joy out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we both make glass beads. It's, one of our hobbies. We make glass beads. I do some pottery. But But if I had to do it for a living, I think it would just becomes about obligation. And obligation has a tendency to draw the joy out of things. I'll make an incense burner, and somebody said, "Oh, can you make me one of those, but like in a dark blue or in green or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And then like, "Oh God, I don't want to do this." The same exact thing that I would have made otherwise.
It becomes about making something for them, not because you love doing it.
Right, exactly. And now it becomes an obligation, and it just draws all the joy out of things. So we kind of caution people. It's like, I really enjoy doing this, making tie-dyes or whatever. It's like, I really should go pro. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But you may find that going pro just draws all the joy out of it. It becomes like they're rock stars.
Yep.
They go out on stage and people worship them. They go out in front of 20,000 people who are literally worship them, and it's like, oh, I gotta do this again tomorrow. And it's like,
I don't know how they do it.
I gotta do the same. That's why a lot of them do drugs.
To get them through.
Yeah, and it's like what used to be, they used to do a lot of cocaine now, right? To keep up, to stay on and perky and full of that energy, like keeping everything fresh. They're playing the same songs every night. It's like, guess what? The guy that's flipping burgers flips burgers every night, and nobody comes out to see them do what they do and worship them, but they still have the same job. So I have no sympathy, for the rock star as such. Plus, they made their choice.
But what we like here too is, particularly with young people, is to listen to them. For example, the other day I had a gal who was enjoying designing clothes. She's working in physical therapy. And I'm listening to her, and what she really wants to do is do more designing. I said, well, okay, she does physical therapy, occupational therapy, and she's entrepreneurial. I said, have you considered designing for young people, young hippie people who are disabled, special clasps and this? And
like to use that background.
Yeah, never thought about it.
Merging the two.
Yeah. And she could, while it's a little different than the crafting stuff, she could always farm it out and do something like that and get a representative where she doesn't have to, sell the stuff or go to, it's how she was looking at industry. It wouldn't be what I would do to look at industry, because I would not want that kind of responsibility. But for her, but she hadn't thought about a passion, a new industry, and then being able to handle people the way she is able to handle people.
Right.
So you have to really know yourself, know who, if you're introspective, introverted or extroverted, as far as what you want to do with your future. And I think Woodstock and both Seth and myself like to listen to people and hear them talk about themselves into their own soul. So I guess that goes along with being part of our family. And our motto is, well, we want you to be very successful, because who's going to buy my clothes?
Anything to add to that? Nope. No comment.
We're still a strong, loving business, and we love our customers, we love our inventory, and if we can mesh the two, make them happy, and someone walks down the street and says, where did you get that?
I love it.
That's my kind of people.
Well, I have to say, Seth, Mom, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Please, Hillary Atkinson with parkbench.com please check out Woodstock Training Company in Cherry Hill. There is something for everybody here. And if for nothing else, come have a really cool conversation with some really awesome people. You never know what you're going to learn, what you're going to find out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.